We are back. What's up, everybody? I'm fresh off of straight deep throating a bacon waffle from Magnolia Pancake House. I don't know if you've ever had a bacon waffle before, but fuck is it unhealthy, but it is delicious. Jesus, just drown that fucker in butter and syrup. Couple eggs and bacon on the side. Can't go wrong. It's delicious. Do I use the term deep throat interchangeably? Yes. But that's okay. Apparently we're living in a country, which this should not be a surprise to most of the people out there who have their eyes open to the history of this country, but we are now separating families from their children for crossing an imaginary line that we made up called a border, and throwing the parents in jail and putting tiny little children in tent cities in the fucking desert in between Mexico and the United States. You know, I don't ever talk about political shit, but I have a real giant fucking issue with the fact that a couple of fat, disgusting white dudes can sit around a table and come up with these things they call laws. And those are hard quotations. They call them laws. Rules we're all supposed to follow that dictate the direction and the path of everyone involved in this fucking country. And not just in this country, but an entire fucking world. 10 billion people. And everybody listens to us, and that's just the way that it fucking goes. So when we say that a couple of brown people, and that's not trying to be racist, chill out, guys. This is being facetious and poking fun at the disgusting people, the higher elites, who believe that they have this kind of power, that they can take a couple of brown people who take one more step than they should over an imaginary line, and then they rip the fucking families apart and throw the parents in jail and put kids in a fucking tent in the middle of the desert. What? Huh? So wait, let me get this straight. Okay, I get it. Okay, let me see if I got you here. So some people saw an opportunity somewhere else other than where they live for a better life for their children and their children's children. And because they took one more step than they should have, because they wanted to better their life, they get their family ripped apart, children ripped from their parents. They have no communication with their fucking parents, and they're now living in bunk beds in tiny fucking tents in the middle of the fucking desert, over 100-degree temperature. Wow, this took a dark turn, didn't it? Went from deep throating waffles to ripping families apart. And that's how it goes, man. This is how our country goes. This is how we roll. You know? Got a couple people at the higher up that accumulate a shitload of money and power, and then they just kind of tell everybody else how this shit runs. So don't step out of line, or don't be brown. That's probably a better one. Yeah, I don't get it. This just disgusting to me. I have I've always kind of had an issue with authority, and I've always had this just nagging desire to question what people tell me, especially, you know, authoritarian figures. So I'm not going to ramble on too much about ripping families apart. Let's make it a little lighter. So this week I have Amos Lozano, who is the CEO and founder of famous Juice Co. here in San Antonio, Texas. And I mean, man, it was a great episode. The guy's super interesting, very positive. He's got so many things going on. He's got his hands in a lot of different jars, and it's really inspiring. I found out way more information on the guy than I initially possessed, and turns out, you know, he's sort of associated with other people that I'm associated with. So, I mean, all that information you'll find out here during the episode. But yeah, check out the episode. I just want to also throw out there, let's get this iTunes page pumping. You know, hit up iTunes, whether you have the app on your phone or if you go through the library on your computer, or however you do it, go through the store. All the content is free. All the episodes are free on iTunes. Just subscribe, and then you can consume all of that content for free. You know, if you got a couple extra minute, 30 seconds to a minute, just scroll down, and whether it be on the YouTube channel or the iTunes channel, leave a comment, leave a review, tell me what you'd like to hear, tell me what you'd like to see, tell me what you like, what you don't like. If you tell me you don't like something, I'll probably just tell you to eat a dick, but hey, just help out the podcast. We're trying to grow this thing, and if you're enjoying the people that are on and you're enjoying the direction of the podcast, then go out there and just take 30 seconds, 45 seconds of your life just to write on there, good job, or hey man, can you think about incorporating this, or whatever you feel like writing. But it really helps out with moving the podcast up on any rankings list, and just for spreading the content out there and growing. So thanks for listening to my rant. But the episode, I promise, is way more positive than that. So thanks everybody. Thanks for the love. And here's the episode. One. Famous Juice Co. Amos Lozano, CEO and founder of the San Antonio-based, it's vegan, right? Vegan Juicery. Is that how you would properly describe how it goes?
Yeah, that would be accurate.
And so I had discovered Amos recently when I was at Alamo Botanicals, which, y'all will probably remember from the episode I did. I think it was episode 18 I did with David Burrows, Alamo Botanicals, first San Antonio-based CBD dispensary. Why am I plugging them? Because I love them. Fuck it. But you've got your juices now in CBD, and that's how I originally, or in CBD, in Alamo Botanicals, and that's how I originally discovered or familiarize myself with you. And then I went and checked out the shop, and I stalked you and hunted you down, and now you're here. What's up, brother?
Not much, dude. Just living the dream, man. Just making the dream a reality every day. Just wake up and do what I love to do. So
they never tell you when you're a kid that they always tell you can be whatever you want, but they don't tell you how brutal it's going to be to try to make that happen, right?
When you're a kid, they tell you can be whatever you want, and then when you reach a certain age, they say you need to just conform and do something else instead, not do whatever you want.
Isn't that strange?
And then when you finally, if you do decide to do what you actually want to do, you're right. They leave out that, if you do decide to do what you really want to do, it's going to be brutal and it's going to be a tough ass road. But it is what it is, and I wouldn't have it any other way.
Right. It seems like when you're a child that there's this nostalgic, opportunistic, wide way of committing acts and getting your desired reactions or dreams and making them possible. But then you reach a certain age where you're kind of thrust into this very structural, formal education that kind of guides you down this predetermined path. And then so all of that hope and wonder is kind of somewhat sucked from you until you decide one day, out of fear, graduating high school or whatever it is, that you're like, you know what? I don't really think I can be whatever I want anymore. It's kind of strange, right? It's like as a child, there's hopes and wonders. Life is puppy dogs and rainbows. And then you get older and you realize how far you can fall if you don't steer on the traditional path that's set out for you.
Definitely. Yeah, I think what happens is, like, when you're a kid, you're dreaming up these very creative, unrealistic things, right? And then when you get older, like we were just talking about, life hits you, and the authority figures, your parents and teachers and different people, they'll hit you with this, like, you need to grow up and be more realistic. You can't start a business with $100, or you can't go and be an NFL football player, whatever it is you want it to be, that when you're a kid seem kind of realistic, and everybody says you can do it, but then once you get older, they're like, look, it's time to be more realistic. And so that's a big thing that I set a lot of unrealistic goals, right? And I study a lot of really successful people who have set unrealistic goals and achieved the impossible. A primary example of that is like Elon Musk. I just read his biography not too long ago. Yeah. It was super inspiring, and like he's a prime example of setting completely unrealistic goals and then just like crushing it.
I had this I guess recent transition into this state of mind where I thought a lot, I would say in the last year or two, mostly the last year, I've kind of taken on this really self-introspective aspect of my life, where really sitting down and analyzing, whether it be uncomfortable or not, why I am the way that I am. And a lot of people don't want to do that. They after a day of filling their day with a bunch of shit they didn't want to do, they just want to sit on the couch, chug beers, and watch Netflix. I get it. It's fucking awesome. Mm-hmm. But actually analyzing yourself and thinking about these things, no matter how comfortable, it really does allow you to accumulate all of these character defects, whether it be or negative or just negative practices that you've adopted into your life. And the strange thing about that is, if you think long and hard enough about it and you realize why you were so creative as a child, why you were able to think about all of these things in such an abstract way, was because you weren't held down or hindered by all of these, by fear mostly. And so I've been really trying the last year, like how you said, and I think this falls right into place, is setting unrealistic goals. Because we find ourselves in these situations a lot of times, and everybody can do this in a time in their life when they think about a time where they were in a crushing situation that was brutal. They didn't know how they were going to get out of it. But then when they got out of it, or they achieved something, or they succeeded, the feeling that you got after that, after success, after a victory, after a situation you thought you couldn't bring yourself out of, and you realize something about yourself that you didn't know before, you realize a power you had before that you didn't know that you possessed. And then I was like, what is that feeling? Why do we get that feeling? Why are we so hard on ourselves initially, and then afterwards we have this amazing rush of dopamine that we're like, oh my God, I can't believe I just succeeded. I did what I didn't think I could do. And I was like, if you're going to be 100% objective or logical about something, take all the emotion, the fear, all of these things out of it. If you really analyze everything for what it is, nothing is really what it seems. It's the premise of the fucking podcast. It's a simulation. It's a mindset. It's failing. It's winning. It's being uncomfortable. It's being comfortable. It's being sad. It's being happy. The universe doesn't want us being one thing all the time. Mm-hmm. So when we embrace all these things and we grow and we realize that everything's fucking finite, we're going to fail. We're going to fall on our face. You're able to I found that I was able to sort of extract this child or kind of reincarnate this childhood mindset, mm-hmm. to where it's not about what everybody else thinks or about failing or falling on your face. It's just about going for it, like when you did when you were a kid.
Definitely.
You know what I mean? And that's, that's one of the main, reasons why I'm finding the people that I'm finding, much like finding you, is going through your content, going through, your process, looking, researching what you do. You talk a lot about similar things. And one thing I found inspiring, especially, was that you kind of repeat this thing that you started your company on $29.
Definitely.
And so talk a little bit about the beginning of Famous Juice Co. and why you got into it, what inspired you, and, kind of touch base on that whole $29 in the pocket thing.
Yeah. So, man, that is it's a long story, but it's the story, right? I'll give you guys kind of the medium version because, this is worth it, of course.
Yeah, say what you want, man.
So let me back up to high school. We went to Madison. You just mentioned you went to Madison. I went to Madison High School as well, where I played football. But when I was a kid, I wanted to be an NFL player, right? That was my big, unrealistic goal. And, obviously, I'm not a very big dude. I'm 5'7", about 160 now at 26 years old. When I was a kid, I was even smaller. When I was 8th grade, I was 95 pounds and like 4 foot, like 10 or something. And so I've always been the smallest kid, and I played football for 10 years. But I've always had, there was always something that kind of set me apart, that people would notice and they would see. And I was always one of the playmakers on every single one of my teams. And it was just this drive and this heart. I always gave everything I had into every single play, every single practice. But the reason for that was because I was so passionate about football, and it was literally the love of my life. Like, I went everywhere with a football. If you ask my siblings or my parents, like, literally I went to the grocery store with the football. I went to my sister's cheerleading practices with the football. I went to the varsity football games with the football. Was the first
time you masturbated, did you have a football in one hand?
You know what? I did not. So I guess I didn't love it that much, huh?
No, you didn't, man. You're slacking.
Yeah.
All right, sorry, dude.
But basically, that was my love. That was my passion for 10 years, and that was all I really thought about. And so when I graduated high school, I hadn't gave a single thought to what am I going to do when this football thing ends. Because in my head, I was just so fixated on right now and today and playing football, and I was so in the moment, which in a way was a good thing, and it made me, I have no regrets. I left everything on that football field. But then at the same time, I had no plan when I graduated high school.
Right.
And so when I did graduate high school, I had just gone through a breakup with this girl I was with for on and off through high school for 3 years, and I was just a complete douche to her the whole time. And after I graduated, we finally broke up, and man, that stuff really tore me apart. And that mixed in with not knowing what I wanted to do. That first semester after graduating in 2010, didn't go to college. I just started working at H-E-B in produce. My dad's a produce manager, so he got me a job at H-E-B. Working produce, just did that. And I was just drinking, partying, staying up all night. I used to go to bed at 3 or 4 in the morning every day, wake up at 2, 3 p.m., go to H-E-B and work 4 p.m. to 10 p.m. and do it all over again. Just look for the next party as soon as I got off. And so for a couple years, man, I was just partying, drinking, just not really doing shit with my life because I didn't know what I wanted to do. And
it's a common story.
For sure.
I don't want to, I don't want to stall you, but man, more people than not fill that void out of uncertainty. Then, you know what I mean? The uncertain about what direction to go, they fill it with much of what you're talking about. Same thing with me, but sorry, dude, go on.
No, you're good. And so then my dad was finally like, dude, like, you got to do something with your life. Like, he got me in the car. He drove me here to Lakeview, and he's like, you're signing up for classes. I'm signing you up. So I signed up for classes, all reluctantly. Started taking some classes. One of the classes I had to take, so it's really kind of ironic that we do it here because it's kind of a part of the story. One of the classes I had to take was a philosophy class. And I met this teacher, and to this day, he's the best teacher I've ever had. And this guy, his name is Dr. Sadler. He still teaches here. This guy is the most phenomenal teacher. He's so caring and loving about what he does, and he's way overqualified. He's got like 3 or 4 degrees. He should be teaching at Ivy League schools, but he knows that he can make the greatest impact here at the community college level. And he impacted my life as well as other people. He really taught me how to think for myself, and he taught me how to not just go with the flow, not to be a sheep in a sense. He taught me how to be an individual, and he taught me to start thinking about what I'm doing with my life and what I'm doing to myself, and I started thinking about all these things. And then another thing, I took a community health class, and that kind of sparked my interest in nutrition. And so it was at this point that I kind of directed my energy and my passion that I had with football and the active lifestyle. I've been a tumbler since I was 5 years old, so I was always flipping around, jumping around, climbing things, and I directed kind of that active, passion that I had with football towards like bodybuilding. Started getting really heavy into lifting extremely heavy weights. I was just like that stereotypical meathead, like lifting heavy shit and like taking a bunch of supplements and eating a whole bunch of processed food. And after I took that community health class, it kind of planted the seed that like the teacher let us know about like fast food, right? I didn't really know anything about fast food and how processed it is.
Or just nutrition in general and how it affects the body. For
sure. And it was a light touch because it was a community health class. It wasn't like a nutrition class. It was just like a light touch on just nutrition. And that kind of just planted the seed that like, you know what, I should probably not be eating so much fast food. But I was still eating some, and through that process for about 2 years, I would just trash my body, dude. Like go in the gym and just lift extremely heavy and just take a shit ton of like stacking all these supplements, eating all this processed food, and then at night spend all night drinking and partying and staying up late, right? And so for about 2 years I did this, and it just wrecked my body. And one day my body was just like had enough. And so I think I was about 19. No, I think I was 20. It was 2013, the beginning of 2013. I started to get this little tingle between my shoulder blades when I was working out. And it went on for about 2 or 3 months just as a little tingle, and I'll just ignore it.
Just push through it?
Of course,
right.
No pain, no gain, just keep pushing.
Right.
And after about 2 or 3 months of that little tingle, started to turn into like a knot, like a spasm between my shoulder blades. And then over the course of 2013, that knot and the spasm started to spread. So it went up into like my neck and my shoulders, and I would get these like just like tension and spasms that was like really uncomfortable. And over the course of the year, went into my like armpits, down into my hips, down into my legs. Basically, everything was just compensating for everything else. And I had this widespread like just muscle spasms, and I would have like these involuntary twitches. And then because of the spasms and all that was going on, I would get like brain fog, and I couldn't think clearly. And at this point in my life, I had a lot going on by this point. I was about 20, and I had started selling weed, started selling psychedelics, started selling mushrooms and LSD, and I was doing that, partying, drinking, living that lifestyle. I had got into it with my parents so this is where I guess the cannabis side of things come in, which would be like a side tangent that could go on for a while.
Right. We'll get on that.
Yeah, for sure. Because of my parents didn't approve of my use of cannabis, I was like, okay, well then I'm gonna fucking leave. I went and I bought a mobile home and shirts, and I was remodeling it, and I was also creating a grow operation there, growing bud there hydroponically. And so I was like, I had this whole plan of like, man, I'm just gonna grow bud illegally till it becomes legal. I'm gonna open a dispensary, I had this whole vision.
Goddamn 5-year plan.
Yeah, right. I've
10-year plan.
I've always been very entrepreneurial, and we can touch on that as well. But I had a lot going on in my life, which is what I'm trying to say is I was remodeling this house. I was working full time. I was going to school part time. I was, running the side hustle, a side business of like selling drugs and psychedelics, and then out partying and drinking all the time. And so all this stress, the variety of stress, the physical stress from the gym, the stress from, I call it a business, because in a way, being a drug dealer is a business. Right. Running that business, remodeling the house, and then I had just gone through a breakup with this other girl who I had met, who was like my dream girl. Like she was perfect, right? And that emotional stress of that, it was all just coming down on me. And then the final straw of it all was I got arrested. So I got arrested for felony possession of marijuana. I got caught with 2 pounds of marijuana.
Good Lord.
Yeah, and so that was like the final straw, man. Like that was like the indication of rock bottom. Like,
fuck yeah.
At that point, I was just broken at every level. Like my body was broken. I couldn't do what I wanted to do and love to do. Like, because over the course of 2013, when I had those spasms and I had all that going on, I had to stop working out. I had to stop doing anything active. Like, because anytime I would go and work out, the spasms would flare up and it would get worse. And so it was so difficult for me to not be active because I've been a tumbler all my life. I've been playing football all my life, and now I can't do anything active. It was like being in a prison in my own body. And, you know, one time, something as light as just like playing volleyball. One time I forced myself to play volleyball because I was like, this is fucking dumb, dude. Like, I'm sitting on the side, like watching my friends play volleyball. Like, I'm some kind of cripple. Like, this is fucking dumb. Like, I can physically play volleyball. I should go play volleyball. Right. So I went, played for about an hour and a half, and afterwards my shoulder just locked. It was just stuck. And the whole night I couldn't sleep. It was terrible, dude. Like, it didn't go away for about, till the next day, like 24 hours, my shoulder was just frozen. So couldn't do anything active, and it was very depressing. And I was just broken. My spirit was broken. My body was broken. My health was broken. Emotionally, I was broken. And I had developed a very negative, it's kind of like what you were touching on a minute ago. I had developed this very negative way of thinking about myself, you know, and I was just very criticizing and
self-deprecation.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Mostly, it was mostly emotional over the way I treated these girls in the past and how I like just was a complete dick to them, and I was like recognizing that I was an asshole and like that's who I am. And for a while I lived that, right? And I was like, you know what, fuck it, I'm gonna be an asshole, and I was that. But it just got to this point where I was just like, man, like this isn't working. Like I'm broken on every level, and I was just desperate. Didn't know what to do. And over the course of that year, as those spasms had spread through my body, I went to 5 different doctors. I had to quit my job at HEB because it's like lifting 30, 40 pound crates. Like literally every day I would get off work at HEB and go take an ice bath because it was like the only thing that could get me through. But it just halted my life, that entire experience. And so I went to 5 different doctors over the course of 2013, and they took a bunch of different tests, test me for fibromyalgia, test me for autoimmune disease, rheumatoid arthritis, all these different things. And they're like, everything comes up normal. We don't know what's wrong with you. So, you know, come back in 3 months and we'll take more tests. And I'm like,
very helpful, sir. Thank you.
Right? I'm like, shit, what do I do now? When the experts don't know what's wrong with me, you know, what do I do now? And that was the hardest part about the whole experience, was that unknown factor, that I don't know what's wrong with me, and I don't know how to make it better. And I also don't know if it's going to get worse. And
right.
The one thing that I do know is that over the course of the last year, it's gotten worse. So for all I know, it's going to continue getting worse. And so I don't know if this is going to leave me crippled, like leave me paralyzed, like some kind of dystrophy. I don't know, right? My mind's just thinking all worst case scenarios. And man, it was such a depressing time. You know, I was just broken. So
then you never got a clear answer of what was wrong with you physically?
I didn't know. Basically, after the whole experience, and when I started really reading into nutrition and about the human body and anatomy, what it came down to is I would overtrain my body, and I just overstressed my body. And
right.
So
and probably it was not helping, poisoning your body with all the processed foods, the simple sugars, the simple carbs,
for sure,
alcohol, which is more sugar.
It was a perfect storm.
Right.
Yeah. I was doing all the wrong things.
So that was probably what you did is you probably just starved your muscles.
Yeah. And on top of that, demanding them to perform at this high level. Like I was lifting insanely heavy weights. Like it was ridiculous. And I got really big, you know, like I said, I was 5'7", or I am 5'7", and I got up to like almost 190, you know, it's like 30 pounds more than I am now. And I was just like this bulky ass dude, but I also couldn't move for shit. You know, like my mobility was gone, and I like I said, I've been a tumbler, so like doing back handsprings and tumbling and stuff like that, I couldn't do it anymore because it was painful. You know, like it hurt my shoulders to do a back handspring, which is a lot of overhead mobility. So I stopped doing that kind of stuff, and it wasn't until later that I got back into it. But basically, you know, I was in this desperate place, and I was just kind of every day I'll kind of just sulk and just like kind of lay in bed and just like watch Netflix. You know, after I got arrested, there was this like 2 to 3 month period.
Whatever came out of being arrested? Did you do jail time? Did you probation?
No. Yeah, so I was on probation for 2 months.
Okay.
Yeah, but you know, there's the whole court process, which took about 6 to 8 months before I got sentenced to.
Right.
By the time I was on probation, like I was already into juicing and like everything had been cleaned up
right.
by the time I got on probation. But
if there's ever a fucking sign that you should reevaluate your life, it's getting caught with 2 pounds of weed and all you get is 2 months of probation.
Right. Well, it was 2 years.
2 years of probation.
Yeah.
Oh, well, even still, who gives a shit? That's a fucking...
And I only did 1.
That's a blessing right there, because that's... Oh, man, because, I mean, and it's funny, because there's these times in our life where we can sort of pinpoint exactly when... I mean, if you're paying attention, you can pinpoint exactly when this mindset is... You know, this mind shift is triggered. Mm-hmm. And, I mean, the same thing with me. I can for sure pinpoint, you know, a couple different situations that all accumulated at a sort of one time, you know, maybe not exactly one time, but, you know, a specific time in my life that triggered a shift in mindset, you know, and definitely a shift in lifestyle, a definite lifestyle change. I was very similar to the story that you're talking about. Tons of drinking, you know. No, I wasn't really ever a drug guy, you know. I mean, I don't consider weed a drug, so that's not, you know, I was never really a drug guy. I mean, I ate a bunch of shrooms and shit, but I don't really consider that a drug either.
For sure. I mean,
but it's just, I was definitely fucking around too much, and out of much of like how you said, the direction I was going was no direction, because I didn't know which direction to go, because I didn't, you know, I wasn't taking the time to analyze it, because analyzing shit is painful. Mm-hmm. Analyzing shit is uncomfortable. And running away from it doesn't do shit either. It just leads to situations like, you know, what I've seen and what you got yourself into.
100%.
So what else did you change after? I mean, you must have had a diet shift. Did you clean up the diet? What else did you find that was helpful in pulling yourself out of this negative situation you were at?
Yeah, so, you know, that's a perfect question, because it's right up on what's next up in the story. So, you know, I would sit in bed all day and just kind of watch Netflix. This is 2 to 3 month period when I just had nothing going on in life. My car had been impounded, so I didn't have a vehicle. I wasn't going to school. I didn't have a job, and I just got arrested, and my life is just like in shit, right? It's just shattered, and I'm just like at my parents' house just watching Netflix, and I stumble across this documentary called Fat, Sick, and Nearly Dead. Have you heard of it?
I definitely have.
Yeah, it's pretty popular. It's all about juicing. And up until that point, I had never heard of juicing fruits and vegetables. Like, it just, you know, we're in San Antonio. It's not a very big thing.
Right. We eat fucking nachos down here, bro.
Yeah, right. The closest thing to juice is like squeezing some juice in your beer, like some lime juice,
right,
you know?
Right.
But I had never heard of it. And, you know, it made perfect sense to me, especially the little bit I had learned through the small nutrition stuff I had learned. I was like, you know, this makes sense. It's fruits and vegetables in a liquefied form, so it's easy for your body to absorb. And it helps you just kind of detox from the inside out, you know, get all those toxins that I had been filling my body with for years, just get them out. And
right, and it's kind of maximizing those, you know, the bioavailability of those nutrients.
Definitely.
And also the consumption in your body. It's far easier.
Definitely. The bioavailability and also the quantity, right? You can fit so much more fruits and veggies in a juice. And so I had tried a bunch of different things, of course, to alleviate my symptoms and my pains. You know, of course, I was using cannabis to help, a variety of different cannabis, you know, treatments. But I had tried acupuncture, massage therapy, electrotherapy, physical therapy. One doctor prescribed me muscle relaxers, which helped for about a week and a half or so, and then my body adapted to them, and it didn't really work that well. And then another doctor was just like, you know, I don't really know what's wrong with you, so take the Xanax. Maybe this will help you out.
Oh, great.
Yeah, and I was like, dude, I'm not going to take that. Like, it was literally just a shot in the dark, just like, see if this helps, you know?
Yeah,
and
definitely.
I was like, dude, I'm not going to take that. So I didn't even get the prescription filled. But I was like, you know, I tried all these other things that didn't really help. What do I have to lose but to try this juicing thing? So I went on Craigslist, got a $50 Jack LaLanne juicer. And I went out and got some produce, looked up some recipes online, and I tried a 3-day juice fast. So the juice fast where you only drink liquids for those 3 days. So raw juice, you can have teas and water. And so I did that 3-day juice fast, and in those 3 days, the symptoms significantly reduced. I didn't have the twitches and the spasms chilled out, and I had like pretty bad insomnia. It was hard to sleep, and I was actually able to get some good sleep and good rest. And I had some mental clarity, which I didn't have before. I was starting to feel more like myself in those 3 days, and I was like, whoa, like that was a little bit of like just a little nudge, right? I was like, okay, like maybe there's something to this, but there was this doubt in the back of my head, like, I don't know, it's probably not like actually gonna help me. It's probably like the muscle relaxers where they worked for about a week and a half, and then it kind of wore off,
or like this placebo effect or some shit like that,
right? Something. And so I still had my doubts, but I was like, you know what, I'll give it I'm gonna try another one. In about 2 weeks after that, I did a 7-day juice fast. This is towards the end of 2013, and in the 7-day juice fast, that was a complete like wake up call, because in the 7-day, after day 3, all of the symptoms disappeared, and I just felt amazing. I felt unlike I have ever felt in my life. Like I had this mental clarity that I never had. I had this energy that I never had. I slept better than I ever had. Like just on every level, I just felt like superhuman, and I didn't even know that my body was capable of feeling this way. And I was like, holy shit, like this whole time, like this is one of the epiphanies I had in the 7 days, was this whole time, my whole life, I thought I've been healthy, especially when I was bodybuilding and counting my macros and all that bullshit.
Right.
I thought I'd been healthy this whole time because I didn't have a disease, or I didn't have a condition. I wasn't diagnosed with something, so I thought I was healthy, which is not necessarily the case. And a lot of people know that, but I just didn't realize that. I'm 20 years old, and like,
right. And I would actually argue that eating clean and changing your diet, eating as clean as possible, as natural as possible, is probably, I would say it's more important than physical exercise. I would
agree.
say that's more beneficial. Physical exercise and giving your body resistance is, there's no doubt that is an amazing thing that you can adopt in your life. But I would say first and foremost, if anybody was ever going to try to make some kind of healthy lifestyle change, I would say cleaning up your diet.
Most
100%.
Definitely agree. That is the foundation.
Right.
And so, that's where I started. After that 7-day juice fast, I made a decision. I was like, you know what? If I want to feel this good, if I want to feel this optimal, if I want to not have all the symptoms that I've been living with for the past year, and if I want to get back to the active lifestyle I want, this is going to have to be something I do every day. This is going to have to be a part of my lifestyle. And, at this point, I have no intention of starting a business. Like, I'm just trying to heal myself at this point, just trying to get better. And so on January 1st of 2014, I decided to do a 21-day juice fast, and every day I had just got into yoga. I was following some yoga videos on YouTube. Every day I did yoga and meditation. And dude, in those 21 days completely transformed me, like mentally, physically, and spiritually. Like I just became this new person. I lost about 25 pounds that I didn't know I had to lose because I was like this big bulky dude. I was still pretty lean. I had abs and everything, but I was just bulky. Like all the toxins and all the just stuff gets stored up in your cells, just all this junk and all the toxins. And so I leaned out. I hadn't worked out in over a year, but I looked shredded because I had built all this muscle for 2 years. And then I leaned out, took out all the junk, the juice after 21 days of raw fruit and vegetable juice. It just cleaned me out. And so it was just, I was a different person, dude. It was a very, very spiritual journey as well. When you go on a long fast like that, it becomes very spiritual. Like after day 7 to 10, it starts to become a spiritual journey. And I had a lot of really deep spiritual experiences in that time, because another reason why I did the juice fast, aside from just detoxing and healing, was I had just learned and was reading about like astral projection and lucid dreaming. Right. And so half the reason why I wanted to do the juice cleanse was so I could detox my body and my mind, so that I could have deeper like astral projections and like deeper lucid dreams, and so that I could explore myself on a subconscious level, which is like crazy.
Did you supplement with like tryptophan or anything?
I did not.
These,
no, I was just barely learning about that stuff, and so I didn't really try it yet. It was just, just juicing and good,
Right.
a clean diet, really. Well, at this point, it was just juice. But it was a very spiritual experience. And after that, those 21 days, I would see people I knew from high school that I used to party with, or I would just see, ex-football players, football teammates, or just family friends, and they wouldn't recognize me. Like, I would say hello to them, and they'd be like do a double take. I'm like, wait, Amos? Like, what? And people were just like blown away by, first of all, the physical, like how I looked, but also people were like, dude, you're like a different person. Like you have an energy about you. Like, you're glowing. Like, there's something about you that's different.
I'm pregnant.
And that's when I let them know. But I was just like, yeah, it's just juicing thing I've been doing, and doing yoga and meditation, just kind of changing my lifestyle, and just telling people about it. And I posted some pictures and a little description on Facebook. And through the 21 days and through all this journey of healing, I had got off of all social media. So kind of like what we were talking about before, I got off because there was just a distraction. There's nothing but bullshit on there, right? And it was nothing good. So another part of those 21 days was I was really focusing on changing my mindset and the way that I thought about myself and the world. And so part of that was eliminating like mainstream TV. I stopped watching movies. I stopped watching TV and the news. I stopped listening to mainstream music. I just kind of isolated myself for a minute so that I could heal and like really, like you said, do that self-work, that uncomfortable, just like getting to know who I am, and then changing the things that I didn't like about myself.
Right.
And just in those 21 days, I kind of did this full-on like self-work as well as this physical like detox. And so I just shared this experience, and people were hitting me up like crazy, dude. I had people calling me and texting me and messaging me and asking me like, dude, what have you been doing? Like, we want to know what you've been doing. And for about a month to a month and a half, I had a new person coming over every day to learn about juicing and yoga and movement, and about my experience and my spiritual experiences and my psychedelic experiences that kind of planted the seeds for all this. And there's this small group of people out there, some of them might be hearing this, and they'll remember this back in the day, in the beginning, when they came over and they heard this full-on story, and they were just like, dude, you're on some other shit, but like, it's
right.
really good stuff. And so again, I had no intention of starting a business, even still. It wasn't until one of my friends, I don't even remember who it was, one of the people that came over, they're like, man, this is awesome, and I want this and I want to feel this, but like, I'm too busy and I don't want to go buy a juicer, and honestly, like, I'm lazy, like, I don't want to do this, and like, you're making juice every day, so like, could you just like make a little extra for me, and like, I'll buy it for me. And I was just like, boom.
There you go.
Like, the light bulb went off, because like I said, I've always been very entrepreneurial my whole life, and that's when I was like, oh shit, like,
just saw an opportunity right then.
And oh yeah, one thing that I definitely got to mention throughout the 21 days, as well as that kind of broken journey at the end, was like, I was really like just crying out to God, just praying to the universe, because I was just desperate. I had nothing really left, and I was just crying out and asking for a direction. I was just saying, like, show me something. I need a direction. I need something to do with my life. I have all this passion that I've used to put towards football, and now I don't know where to put it towards. And I know I can do something great, and I know I was born to do something great, but I don't know what. So like, give me something, And so during those 21 days, it was like, I started to kind of figure it out. And once I had that click of like, whoa, like, I can help people get healthier and make a living doing it. Like, I'm just gonna start like making juice for people. And so I had $29 in my wallet. I made a YouTube video. There's a YouTube video up on, it was like February like 21st or something of 2014. And I was like, all right guys, look, this is $29 I have. And like, I'm just gonna go spend it on a bunch of produce. And I started this Facebook page, like putting it out to people. At the time, it was called Famous Transformational Juicing. It was like super long and like not catchy at all. But I was like, I'm gonna go buy a bunch of produce, and if any of you guys who I've talked to who want juice, like I'll sell you juice in mason jars, and just hit me up and I'll get juice to you. And that's pretty much how I started. And I was out of my parents' kitchen about 4 years ago.
You made this comment about being in this moment of desperation and uncertainty, and you sat in your bed, and you spoke, whether you're a religious person or not. I wouldn't define myself as a religious person. I would definitely define myself as a spiritual person.
Agree.
And it's not that I say that I'm just not a fan of organized religion, I would say, but I do. I don't know. I'm sure you're aware of who Aubrey Marcus is.
For sure. Just read his book.
Well, I'm reading it right now, along with this bad boy right here.
Dope.
So this is going to lead to my next point. Since this is strictly audio, no one knows what I just held up. But Jordan Peterson's new book, 12 Rules for Life. Two amazing men and role models, very inspiring people. But I think it was last week, Jordan Peterson finally made his way onto Aubrey Marcus's podcast.
Nice.
Fantastic podcast. But he talks a lot about the utility and the necessity for, sometimes making time for yourself to just sit up in bed in these moments of desperation and just asking for help, not asking somebody specific, not saying anything, not even having to say anything specific, but just looking up to what you believe in, or looking up to the sky, looking into the universe, and just asking for something. Mm-hmm. And if you sit there long enough, you'll get an answer.
Definitely.
And it's not gonna ever come. It's not ever going to be the answer you want. It's not ever going to be the answer that you cooked up in your head, mm-hmm. but it's going to be an answer that's going to lead you somewhere. And I just find it incredible, like the resiliency of people sometimes. I've seen it in myself. I'm sure you've clearly seen it in yourself, that when we think we're defeated or we're broken or we don't know where the fuck to go, this resiliency and this malleability that we have. And what's even stranger is where the fucking ideas and where the answers come from.
Definitely.
I mean, we're conscious beings. Mm-hmm. Out of all the genotypes that inhabit this planet, we're the only ones that have this higher conscious. There's other species of mammals like dolphins and shit that have their own unique, intricate languages, but they don't have thumbs, so we win. But there's this strange energy or power that exists, and it's okay that it doesn't have to come from what you were told as a child or what you believe to be the truth of the universe. But the simple fact that these thoughts or these ideas, they come from somewhere. It might be in our own head, it might be something external, but there's people like Jordan Peterson and Aubrey Marcus and other people that are closely related or following similar paths, that they really get your mind thinking and open up, and really open up this dialogue, this internal dialogue, that you're not going to have the answers to most things in your life, but the fact that you keep moving and the fact that you keep asking, you're going to get an answer and you're going to get there sometime. Mm-hmm. And before, I would say 2 years ago, when I went through this drastic lifestyle change with my diet and exercise, reading, meditation was a big one for me too. I didn't understand any of the things that we were talking about right now. In fact, I would have probably called both of us hippie fucking weirdos. I was very judgmental, very, I would say, shallow in my thinking, and in no way, shape, or form was I self-analytical or introspective. Mm-hmm. And you would touch base on this part where you reach in your life where you realize, like, man, I did a lot of things wrong, but while you're in the middle of it, you didn't think they were wrong. And then you reach a certain point in your life where everything's so fucked, the path is so twisted and winded, you don't know where to go. But then that path from somewhere, some message or whatever in that path gives you one idea, one message, and you change that. And then after you change that, it's weird. Like something else falls in line that was fucked. Mm-hmm. And then you get another idea or another message to change this part. And then you get a year or 2 years down the road after taking little steps and changing little things. And you look back and you're like, man, I changed a lot of shit. And it goes back to this whole, if you were thinking about things on like a biological level, I think every cell in your body regenerates every 7 years, with the exception of the cells in your like your kidney or something. There's like an organ or whatever that's not necessarily true. But it's actually kind of cool that every 7 years you're essentially a new person on a biological level.
It's amazing.
And so it's always helped me to keep these thoughts in my head, is because we don't want to walk into a dark room. And the reason why it's scary is because it's uncertain what's in that dark room.
Yeah.
But if you walk through the goddamn dark room and then nothing happens, and then you reach the other side and it's light, there was a benefit in taking that chance. Mm-hmm. What was the benefit in not taking a chance? We don't know. Mm-hmm. But I just wanted... and that leads me to another very beneficial quote that I actually told somebody reached out to me. It's really cool. I don't want to throw this off real quick, but like I said, I'm 5 months into this podcast, and more every week there's people reaching out to me, hopping in the DMs, telling me, today I was at work and I got a message from a guy that I hadn't seen since fucking middle school. We don't even know each other anymore, but he just hit me up to tell me. And I'm not saying, hey, he didn't message me, hey, good job, man. He wrote out this long thing about his life, and I thought I just thought it was so incredible. And I actually, I get chills from this kind of stuff, because this is never something I would have thought the direction my life would go. Even sharing any of the things that I'm sharing now, I would have never done it. I viewed all of these things as weakness. I viewed sharing experiences and feelings and as a sign of weakness, and it was uncomfortable. And it's strange the kind of things now that I'm willing to put on social media platforms and out into the world. And the only reason I've found this place to be comfortable with it is because I knew that I had to survive. I had to break these barriers that were kind of shoving me in a corner forever to grow. And then as soon as you break down a barrier, you can breathe a little more. You break down another barrier, you can breathe a little more. And then, like I said, you find this direction. But Jordan Peterson has this quote, is like that, it's not certain. It's not a fluffy quote. It's not positive, but it is. And the quote is, life never gets less scary. You just get braver. So most people are striving to be less scared. Most people are striving to be more comfortable. But what we should be striving for is to be more brave.
Definitely.
We should be striving to be more equipped. We should be striving to be more adaptable, to be more intelligent, to be more prepared for battle every day. And once I recognized that that's what the core of my thinking was where it was faulted, was that I was striving for the wrong things, like wanting to be comfortable, like wanting to have that fucking chocolate bar at the end of the night because it's like, oh, I can wrap my day up and I can fucking just be hyped that I got a fucking Dairy Queen Blizzard or whatever, and that's how I can top my day off. When I realized that that's not what's going to benefit me in life, is that I should just be striving for the opposite, to be uncomfortable, to learn more that I don't know and shit like that. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And I just, I find more and more often as I speak to people like you, and as I speak to people that are taking chances, that we're all fucking scared. Nobody that's doing something, even if they're successful, there's not one chance. There's not one fucking possibility that they'll make it through a day without having some negative thought that it's all going to come crashing down.
Yeah. In fact, that's what drives a lot of them.
Exactly. And when I realized that everyone is just as scared and everyone is just the same as me, with the exception of fucking sociopaths and shit like that. You know, clearly there's a part of there's people out there but those are not the kind of people you probably want to hang around. But once I realized that everybody, maybe there's levels and variances of intensities and problems, you know, individual problems, but once I realized that everyone is just this insecure, vulnerable meat body, just like me, I was like, that's why now I have to talk about this.
Yeah.
Because if I talk, I realized as soon as I started expressing these things and talking about these things, people around me started doing this. Much of like how you said you started out with changing your lifestyle and juicing, meditating, all of that shit. The people around you were like, well, this guy's doing something. He looks better. He's more, I mean, he's articulating his words better. His energy is positive. And they notice these things. Energy is a real thing, man.
Oh, yeah.
It's a contagious thing. Or it's not. You know what I mean? You know, it's so when people realize these things around you, I mean, it's gravitating. You know, people feel these things. So that was, you know, one major change in my mindset that I found is just talking about this shit. Not only was it therapy for me on a selfish level, it's okay to, you know, be selfish sometimes. You know, it was therapy for sure, therapy for me to start this podcast, but it was actually helping other people, and you know, they would vocalize those things to me. And I thought that shit was fucking cool, man. Yeah, I thought it was incredible, because I would have never thought that telling somebody that I cried in the shower last night listening to fucking Kelly Clarkson. I didn't really listen to Kelly Clarkson, that was a joke, but she is a badass, but fuck. I would have never thought that telling somebody that, or telling somebody that I'm fucking scared of everything, would have been beneficial. I would have thought that people would have been like, oh, you pussy. That was my mindset. But literally, when I was like, I started changing my mindset and telling people like I'm scared of everything. Fuck it. I still do it. It just doesn't mean I'm not fucking scared. Yeah. You know, and then people just started opening up to me. And it's fucking crazy how that contagious that shit is, man.
It definitely
It's really contagious. And I think that's a beautiful thing. And when I started this podcast, I had no intention of turning this in any direction to be like a mental health oriented podcast. But you know, and it's not the premise of the podcast is not mental health, but it's a reoccurring premise of the podcast that keeps coming up, because just like your body, I think that you need to be working your mind out just as tough, just as hard, to really be the most optimal version of yourself possible, and to affect people in the most positive way. Be the best version of yourself. Yeah. And so I see a lot of similarities in people that are starting shit out or already doing things, much of like how you're doing. I'm on a lower level than on what you're doing, but I see what you're doing. Before this, we were strangers. I didn't know who you were. You know, maybe, you know, we've seen each other in the past, who knows, but once when you set your insecurities aside and you strive to be more like people that you're interested in what they're doing, that's how you're growing. You know what I mean? A lot of people want to fucking hate on people that are doing cool shit. A lot of people want to be negative and talk shit about it, but it's all just coming from an internal deficiency of skill, of knowledge, of success. And so, like I said, I didn't set out for this podcast to be something that was, kind of mental health oriented, but it's very much so turning into something like that, because I think that there is and you know, you went back to that thing where your buddy told you, hey, can you just make this juice for me? And then something clicked. Well, I did several episodes before I got into, before I started realizing, man, I've read a lot about the things that I'm talking about, and I'm seeing positive changes in certain things that I'm talking about. And same thing, click. Okay, so then that's something I can incorporate in the podcast, along with telling other people, giving a platform to other people to tell their stories and bouncing ideas off them and just having a good conversation, Yeah. And so like I said, it's a cool thing. It's an incredible thing. But let's not all be fucking mushy and gushy the whole fucking time. Let's get into more of the endeavors the more of the things that you're doing with the company. I'd like to talk about how you got, or how you began collaborating or getting in the doors of the businesses like Alamo Botanicals, and how you started incorporating CBD into some juices, and then after that we'll talk about CBD, because I'm a huge proprietor of CBD oil.
For sure. So where should I start? You want to talk about Alamo Botanicals first, the relationship with them?
Yeah, let's see why CBD oil, and why did you find that would be something like a beneficial pairing, or something to implement in your juicing business?
Yeah, so like I mentioned, in my story about what kind of inspired me to start Famous Juice, I've been very passionate about cannabis since I was young. I started smoking cannabis when I was about 15. It's the first time I tried it. I didn't really start like regularly smoking it until I was around like 17, 18. When I was around 17 or 18, and I started to smoke it more regularly, every time that I did, I would feel guilty, because I felt like a criminal. I felt like I was doing some hardcore drug, because that's what society, imprints on us as children and our parents and teachers and everything. And so I felt every single time, I'm like, man, this is so fun and awesome. But then I'm like, damn, I'm like doing drugs, And so
I'm a drug addict.
I would feel bad about it, and I would feel guilty about it. And I was kind of torn, right? And this ties in with when I took Dr. Sadler's class. It was around the same time period. I was torn because on one hand, I have all these authoritative figures like my parents, teachers growing up, the DARE program, the DARE cop when I was in elementary school.
Dude, when I was in DARE in elementary school, Officer Little, if you ever hear this fucking podcast, you broke my heart, bro. We went the whole year in DARE class thinking this guy was fucking just this stand-up fucking citizen police officer. This guy's a fucking savior. Mind you, he was extremely overweight, so then he was, he's already, that's negative, but you don't think about that, But at the end of the year, he goes, super funny how he put this too. He goes, look, I want to be honest with y'all. I'm going to come clean. I smoke cigarettes.
Bro.
Bitch, if you were gonna fucking be honest with us, you should have told us that on day one.
I had the same damn cop.
No shit?
Swear. Dang, and he did the same shit.
If you're gonna be honest, bro, you should have told us on day one. Then I wouldn't have fucking thought every single, well, but see, and the thing is, that's that's his own choice. That's cool, whatever. But it's like, man, it broke my fucking heart, because the whole time he's like, drugs, cigarettes, alcohol, they're fucking drugs. And I'm like, what?
Right?
You're a drug addict too.
So hypocritical. I mean, he could just be like we were talking about earlier, just be vulnerable and like let us know.
Exactly. Anyways, go on.
Yeah. So, on one hand, I had all these authoritative figures like him telling me that marijuana is this dangerous drug, that it's going to make me lazy, that I'm going to become addicted, like all the negative stigmas, it's killing my brain cells, making me dumb, all the negative stigmas surrounding cannabis. And then on the other hand, I had all my stoner friends and all these stoners telling me like, yeah, dude, it like cures cancer, it's got all these medical uses, you can make t-shirts out of it, like all this shit. And I'm like, fuck, what do I believe? I have these two groups of people who I at least at that point in my life, like trust, and I don't know who to believe, right? I'm like torn. And I know that I like using cannabis. It makes me feel good and it's fun. It makes everything better, but I feel guilty every time I do it. So like, what am I going to do? And I had, in the middle of this, I was taking Dr. Sadler's class, and he taught me to think for myself. And he taught me, like, one of the first things in that class, one of the first exercises, he asked somebody like, when's your birthday? And they told him, and he was like, how do you know that's your birthday? And he was like, well, my parents told me. And he's like, okay, how do you know they're not lying to you? And he was like, well, I mean, why would my parents lie to you? And he's like, I don't know, but couldn't they?
Why did the sugar industry lie to us when they said that, after they paid off scientists $50,000, they're saying shit to fucking lie to entire country and generations of people to say that sugar was not causing fucking cardiovascular disease? I don't know. You tell me, bro.
Boom. So he really just expanded my mind on like, damn, like he all the beliefs that I had prior to taking his class were like out the window. Like I just started to look at everything in a different way. And so I decided, you know what? I'm going to go find out the truth, because that's what philosophy is about. And I fell in love with philosophy when I took his class. Philosophy is ultimately the love for the truth and the search for the truth. And I decided I'm going to go find out the truth for myself. I'm not going to rely on these other people to tell me what it is. And so I had about an hour break between my philosophy class, and I think I was taking a psychology class that semester, and it's crazy.
That's interesting. That's a mind fuck for
right?
you.
and that's just, I didn't pick them. That's just what the counselor,
Right.
just put me in. And what's super ironic is literally just around the corner of this room, I would go to this computer right here, and I would just research cannabis, and I would just research, how did it become illegal? Why did it become illegal? When did it become illegal? What are the studies proving that it kills brain cells? What is the origin of all this shit, right? And that's when I discovered hemp.
So you know about William Randolph Hearst?
100%. I can tell you all the details about that motherfucker.
Yeah, man, it's some criminal fucking shit, man.
It's bullshit, and it's it's a conspiracy.
Exactly.
And it's not a theory. It's a conspiracy they conspired against the plant.
That's a proven conspiracy.
For sure. A group of people conspired against the plant, and that's the truth. And when I
to protect the lumber industry, essentially, he had monopolized the lumber industry, and hemp was a far more resilient product than using paper products or lumber products.
Yeah, and his newspaper chain.
Exactly.
And so that's what they used.
Where the term marijuana came from.
Right. And that's what they used to spread the propaganda.
Made up some lie that black people and Mexican people were raping white women after smoking this Mexican tobacco plant, and they termed the key. Or the key term became marijuana, which actually just means like a wild Mexican tobacco plant. But yeah they gave it this whole negative stigma and put out this lie that it was causing black men and Mexican men to rape white women. Yeah. No, save the white women.
Harry Anslinger saying all those crazy shit. So I discovered.
Have you ever seen that video of Ford when the first model T came out, and it was made out of hemp.
Yeah. And
he was smacking it with a fucking hammer. Yeah. That was pretty crazy, right?
Yeah, it came out in, man, I forgot what it is. Some kind of motor magazine in like in the 30s.
Yeah.
He had built his car out of some of the panels were hemp panels, and it was stronger than steel. And then also he built the Model T to run off of hemp biofuel. There's pictures of him in front of fields of hemp.
Super crazy, right?
And so I discovered that America was literally fucking built on industrial hemp.
Yeah.
Right. So after I discovered all this, and I realized that we've been lied to this whole time, not only have we been lied to in the past, but we're continuing to be lied to, bro, I was so infuriated. It struck emotion in me that I was like, all right, this is fucking it. Not only am I pro cannabis, I'm gonna go and tell every single person I can about the truth about cannabis.
Right.
Weed is not just to get high. Yes, you can use it to get high, and it's a safe way to get high if you want to use it recreationally that way or medically that way.
It's a safe way to alter your mindset.
It is, definitely, to get a different perspective.
Alcohol or other opiates or other drugs.
For sure. But it's so much more than that. My shoes that I'm wearing right now are made out of hemp. My wallet is made out of hemp. And like we just said, you can make a biofuel out of it. It's sustainable building material. It's sustainable clothing. All these things I confirmed, and I became very passionate about it. And then that's when, I started smoking heavy. I started selling, and I started smoking heavy and just living that lifestyle. Started growing and just reading all about growing it. And, that's when I immersed myself in that culture, and I thought that was my direction. But life, through the story I just told, kind of just brought down the hammer on that whole thing. And so the whole point of that is just that I that's what started my passion about cannabis. And so I knew that once I started juicing, and I started juicing as a business, I knew that one day I want to integrate raw cannabis juice into my company. And as soon as I'm able to, we're aiming to be one of the first companies in Texas offering true raw cannabis juice, not infused, not from concentrate, not frozen or anything like that. The raw
actual leaf
ran through our juicers, right? And so that's a goal for our company. And so, but I wanted to get it started,
right?
So I decided, okay, cool. Well, let's start with CBD, and I'll start infusing with CBD.
It's natural to kind of transition to,
for sure,
using the other cannabinoid that people are somewhat familiar with.
Exactly. And so what actually connected me with Alamo Botanicals wasn't related to my juice company at all. I've been in the process. I'm starting another company. I have a hemp apparel company called Emjayze that I'm setting up the infrastructure.
That's your
for.
company too?
That is my company.
No
yeah.
shit.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah.
I actually tried to find information on that before information on your juice.
Yeah, so that's a brand that I've been starting. It's a part-time project because obviously Famous Juice is my main focus. So I've just been working on it on the side over the past like year and a half. Last year is when I really started working on it. I developed the branding for it, wrote up the business plan, which I'm still revising, of course. And I started networking, started going to different cannabis conferences. I got involved with TCIA, which is Texas Cannabis Industry Association. They had an entrepreneur incubator, which I was in for a while, and just started networking, started getting to know the industry. What are people doing? What are people selling? Can I get hemp fiber to make clothing out of? Is it even possible to make? Because the whole goal with Emjayze is to make American grown, American made clothing out of hemp fiber. That's the ultimate goal. And what I discovered over this, networking and the research of the industry is the industry obviously is it's below even infancy. It's like a seed, if even a seed. It's barely even being born into a seed right now. And so the infrastructure for that side of things, the industrial side, isn't even there yet. There's not even the processing plants to create textiles out of hemp in America.
Well, it's because it's being hindered by the fucking Schedule 1 laws in this fucking country.
For sure.
It's non-psychoactive. Ridiculous. It's fucking insane. It's not even the same cannabinoid, not even the same fucking chemical compound. It's just silly.
It is very silly. It is very, very silly. And it doesn't even
Did you find a lot of these people that you're running into, were they sourcing from Canada, or it was up until I think it's only been like a year and a half, or I think pretty recent that they actually made hemp legal in the United States.
2014.
Okay,
yeah, so it's pretty recent, but most of them so when I started networking with them last year, it depends on which product they're making, depending on where they're sourcing it from. So some of it's from Colorado, some of it's from Oregon, and in most of the nutritional products like hemp seeds and hemp oils for ingestion are coming from Canada. But then stuff that's like textiles is more from the textiles from China, because they've been doing it for thousands of years. They have the best processes and growing techniques. But then some other products come from like Germany and Spain and stuff like that. But in networking and working on Emjayze hemp apparel brand and just in embedding myself into that industry, I discovered a connection for the hemp flower that I got you, and I was blown away. I was like, holy shit, I didn't know this was a thing. This looks like straight up bud, but it doesn't get you high, and it's legal. It's covered underneath the federal farm bill, which allows me to sell CBD tincture or hemp seeds. I can sell the hemp flower too under the same thing, as long as it's under 0.3 THC. So I found this connect, and he's a grower in Oregon. He can get me as many pounds as I want or need, and so I'm like, sweet. So I was like, send me a sample. He sent me a sample. First thing I did, I had heard of Alamo Botanicals. I went straight to Alamo Botanicals and I was like, yo, y'all got hemp flower in here? And they're like, no, we didn't really have anything else. So check this out. Here's a paperwork from the Department of Agriculture, and the quality is legit. And they were blown away, and they're like, shit, dude, yeah, let's get a pound of this. So I supplied them with the hemp flower. And so they're working on their packaging right now for it. So they don't push it real hard yet because they're finishing their packaging. But you can, if you ask for it there, they'll get you some. Yeah. And so that was the first connection I made with them. And then I was like, yo, I got these juices, and we've been infusing them with Citizen CBD, which I had met, or I got in contact through Rick. I don't know if you know Rick. Mm-hmm. He'd be great for your podcast, dude. He's a cannabis entrepreneur consultant. He basically helps people in the cannabis realm.
Where is he based, out of San Antonio?
Yeah, he lives at the Pearl, or in the Pearl.
Well, maybe we'll talk about it after the podcast. Maybe we can see if we can set something up.
For sure. But I was using Citizen CBD, and then I was like, yo, I just started doing this with my juices. Is it cool if I come and sample them here at your shop? Did a couple samplings. It went really well, and then, we started selling from there. And that's kind of how I got connected with Alamo Botanicals, and kind of the story on why we're integrating CBD into our juices. And it's kind of funny you hit me up today and like we're talking about this because a blog, I don't know if you heard of the 20-something SA blog. They've got like 20-something thousand followers on Instagram. They actually just posted a blog today about it's like famous juice company brings cannabis infused juices to San Antonio.
Damn, congratulations, man.
Thanks, dude.
That's fucking beautiful.
Yeah, and it's a really dope ass interview, you know, a bunch of questions, very similar. I told him the story. It's y'all in text though, so it's not as detailed. Right. But yeah, so that's pretty much a story on how we got connected with Alamo Botanicals, why we're infusing our juices with cannabis, and kind of you know, the direction we're going with that.
That's awesome, man.
Yep. So we're actually today what I was working on was we're about to come out with for Emjayze before I start the apparel side of things, because this opportunity with the flower just kind of sprang up. We're about to start packaging. I found a company that does hemp plastic packaging, which is fucking awesome. And so we're about to have like our eighths in hemp plastic packaging, and then we'll do pre-rolls inside of tubes that are hemp plastic. So that way, not only is it eco-friendly, but we can use it as educational tools, because people don't know that you can make plastic out of hemp.
Right.
And people don't know that you can smoke hemp that's not going to get you high, but will give you all the benefits of CBD and a lot of the medicinal benefits.
And it's biodegradable.
It is biodegradable. And so
you don't have to contribute to the giant fucking plastic island that's floating off the fucking...
Exactly.
Wherever the fuck it's floating off of.
Plus, the more hemp that we grow, it's healing our soil and it's removing toxins out of the soil. So the more that we support the industry, the more that it helps, you know, heal the earth and the land that we've been ravaging.
That is fascinating, man.
Yeah.
I was not I literally tried to find information about the Emjayze?
Emjayze.
Emjayze.
Yeah, so
I tried to find, it's Emjayze.
Yeah, you know, like Mary Jane's, but it's
okay,
play on words.
Right, yeah. I tried to find information on how to get a hold of who is running that shit first, because I was like, man, hemp-based product and shit, this is right up my alley. And I actually went there first, and I was unaware that that's something you're starting up. That's cool, man.
Yeah, that keeps happening. Like, people keep hitting me up on that page, and they're like, yo, we'd love to connect with you. And I'm like, hey, bro, it's Amos. Like, I know you. And they're like, what?
That's funny, man.
Yeah.
That's sick, man. Well, dude, it sounds like you got a lot of very, very cool things going on. We're going to wrap this up. If there's anything that you want to throw out there, plug. I know that you got the hemp-based product company coming out. If there's anything else, any more news you want to throw out there? Or
you guys can just, somewhere you guys can follow us. The juice company is at famousjuice.co on Instagram. My personal Instagram is at eatplantsmoveoften. And then the hemp company is Emjayze_apparel, and that's spelled EMJAYZE. And like I said, in the next couple of weeks, definitely by the end of July, we'll have hemp flower available in hemp plastic packaging. We'll also have hemp pre-rolls that are packaged in hemp cardboard. So right. that'll be super sweet. And then within the next 2 to 3 months, we'll have some hemp apparel out. And with that apparel, it's t-shirts that spreads, graphic t-shirts that spreads awareness about industrial hemp. So definitely be on the lookout for that.
Well, thanks so much for doing this, man. You didn't have to. I mean, like I said, there's people like you that give me a reason to keep doing this podcast. It's fascinating. All the information, all the things you got going on. It's really cool. So thanks so much for doing it, man.
Dude, thanks for reaching out.
Everybody, look towards what Amos has got going on. This guy's doing a lot of cool stuff. Check out Famous Juice Co. And thanks for all the love, everybody. I just want to remind everyone that the podcast is available now on iTunes. It's always available through the YouTube channel, which is where I'm getting most of the traffic. But let's push that iTunes. Let's rate, review, and subscribe. That helps. That shows iTunes that we're getting this traffic. And also look out soon. The podcast will be available coming up soon on Spotify and possibly Stitcher. I'm having trouble with that because I have to re-upload all of the episodes as MP3 files. YouTube is only compatible with video format, MP4, blah blah blah. That's not very exciting for y'all, I understand. But yeah, check out the podcast. Hit up the iTunes and subscribe. It's way easier to consume. And let's push those. But thanks for all the love, everybody. Thanks for everyone who's hitting me up and going out of their way to let me know that I'm on the right path. So yeah. Stay tuned for some more news, and thanks, everybody. Peace.